What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
It was important for me to do it today with everybody to tell Montrealers, please continue to use the metro. It's safe. We're on it and we care. And not only do we care for you to take the metro, but we also care for the people that are dealing with difficult stuff.
Well,
we will continue to find solutions, though the real solution will always be housing and more services. But neither the STM or the City of Montreal have doctors and experts in drug use and all that. We don't have that. We don't have that.
What? That's Valerie Plante. I'm not sure I got the whole thing there. I get the part about wanting it to be safe for riders, the metro, and for people who've been loitering in stations, some who are forced to sleep there, of course, because they don't have a place to go. Jim, I talked to James Hughes from the Old Brewery Mission about this, and obviously, look, I know it's easy to criticize here. This doesn't seem to be much of a solution other than to simply say keep moving. So give me your take on this. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure it's going to be a bit less polite than that of James Hughes, who's one of the finest gentlemen I've ever had the privilege to interview. But let me tell you, Aaron, I've been covering this story for 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess it says something. There's some hope for me yet that this is one of the few stories left that still get me angry. And I got furious when I saw it. And I don't blame the headline writer at La Presse, but when they refer to, plus de flanage au métro, no more loitering in the metro. When you're passed out in a drug coma, I'm sorry, you're not loitering. And Madame Plante in that clip summed up the conundrum that we, the public face, and that the various provincial governments have been running away from for close to 4 decades. This is not a housing problem, although yes, there has to be some place to house these people. But the fact is, most of them are not there because they're on the bum or they want to grift society. They're there because they are severely addicted to drugs or alcohol. They're there because they're suffering from severe mental illness. And guess what, Aaron? Even then, and when I was doing this story 35 years ago, we still don't have enough psychiatric beds in Quebec to deal with the people who need that help. So the fact of the matter is, and I get it with the STM. I understand completely that, you've got to try and make people feel safe. And quite frankly, I was in town yesterday, middle of the day, morning, in fact. And I'm going from Barrie, I just had to go to Vendôme, and I passed about, 6 or 7 guys who were completely passed out, either on the stairs or up against the wall, various stations. And, you have these STM security people kind of, sheepishly on their walkie-talkies trying to figure out, do we call urgence? What do we do? The fact is, tomorrow, the guys that I saw were passed out. I think if you go up to them and shake them and say, move along, they're not going to move along. This is not the solution to the problem, although I understand, as I say, that they've got to transmit the message that it is safe in the metro. But you know what? It is safe, but it's less safe than it used to be. It is safe, but your odds of perhaps having a bad experience, of perhaps running into someone who was not, mentally stable, who was up on drugs, who's angry, whatever. It's happened before. It doesn't happen every day, but that is always in the back of a lot of minds of people who are using public transit. And no, it's not just a nighttime thing. It's now this is an issue you can see throughout the course of the day. So until sufficient blowtorch intensity pressure is brought to bear on the province, on the provincial government, I don't care if it's the CAC, the Liberals, or the PECs, to deal with this once and for all, to grab this problem by the horns and understand that many of those people, by the way, who are wandering around the metro with no place to go, are from the regions. Because why? Because they can't get help. The help they need is not available in the regions, and it's barely available in Montreal. So, it's this vicious circle, and we're focusing on the STM, which is kind of just doing this kind of a knee-jerk thing just to make sure that, people are feeling less scared. But the fact is, the problem's not going to go away. The problem is not going to get up and move along simply because it's too passed out to move.
Look, it's one of those situations, Jim, and you're right, and this has been going on forever. There's nothing new here, and I know the administration will kind of pat itself on the back saying, yeah, we've heard from Montrealers about it not being safe. So how do you make it safe? Forget the loitering aspect for just a second. In terms of making it safe, what metro system anywhere in the world that we could look at and go, you know what, that's a safe metro system, and that's what we should be trying to mimic here. Is it that simple?
Funny you should ask, because I remember, my God, exactly 25 years ago, I was attending a conference down in Washington, D.C., and it was the second time I'd gone. A bunch of us had been there before. We knew what this particular afternoon was going to be, so we staged a jailbreak. We said, let's go tour D.C., and we took the subway. Every single station we got off at, every single station had at least 20 homeless guys just standing in the station, in the entrance to the station. Most of them were men of color. It was January. They were bundled up as best they could be. And I'm looking at this, and a little voice in the back of my head goes, God forbid, this is where we're going to be in 25 years' time. We're not there just yet. But guess what? There is as well that gap between people who have money and people who don't have money. That's growing here in this country as well. As much as we like to thump our chest, this phenomenon, like it or not, it is occurring. So we have got to get ahead of this. And the idea that, I'm not going to point the finger at the STM and turn around and say, well, what they're doing is terrible, what they're doing is wrong, it's cold-hearted and whatever. They have a responsibility as well to a clientele, a public that has a right not to feel threatened. And yes, they will feel threatened. I'm sorry, and if you think less of someone who feels that way, too bloody bad. I've discovered, in fact, Aaron, with all due respect to my colleagues, that the loudest critics in media who, against, this is terrible, the way they're treating the homeless in the subway, are people who've never ridden a subway in their lives. So, everyone just take a deep breath and understand, let's deal with this problem, but deal with it realistically. And as Craig Sauvé says, if we have to take the extraordinary or the emergency step of just commandeering a bed so these people don't have to sleep on a metro station stairway, that's a big first step. And you know what? I think most taxpayers, given what we've gone through this week alone, in terms of, Sac-Click and Northvolt, will be happy to spend the money on that.
All right, let me move on from that and talk about the other thing that started the show today. Jim, I hadn't intended to go there, but I heard Howard Lutnick again, who I'm beginning to hate as much as Donald Trump, maybe more.
Okay.
Basically taking a strip off Doug Ford. I don't know if you've heard this clip. If you haven't, I think you heard it.
Yeah.
Referring to him as some guy in Ontario. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? It's reached the point now, at least for me, and certainly for the callers that we took, and I'm going to ask this again, beyond, and I know we talked about this a while ago, this idea that, it was a joke, Governor Trudeau, 51st state. No one is backing off in this administration. In fact, they're doubling down on this stuff. And I wonder now if it's time, I don't know what the pushback here ought to be beyond what we've already done, but I'm very, very, very angry about this.
You are very angry, and if it makes you feel any better, it makes the listeners feel any better, let me tell you right now, given the initial reaction from Donald Trump, we talked about this yesterday, about Donald Trump referring to Doug Ford, and I told you, that's the sound of a bully who just got punched in the face. And I'm telling you, Lutnick, that whole crew, okay, they are scared witless of what is happening north of the border. They weren't expecting this. They weren't expecting our personal, he's crazy, he'll do it politician, Doug Ford, to turn around and slap 25% tariffs on.
Well, so hold on, Jim. How could they not be expecting this and just think that they could run a roughshod over, Canada, introduce tariffs wherever they wanted, and we would do nothing?
Aaron, we're talking about Donald Trump, and we're also talking about one of the most ignorant nations on earth. So please don't be surprised when they do things that don't make any sense. Up until Trump got caught, up until the market started crashing, nobody was aware or cared what Trump was doing with tariffs or alliances or international relations. Now that it's costing them money, they're discovering, Donald Trump might be a little bit nuts. And guess what? He is nuts. And the question is, you and I and our listeners can talk about this till we're blue in the face. It is going to fall to people like Harold Lutnick or anybody else in the entourage or anybody else in government and the Republican side to turn around and say, enough is enough. We got to get rid of this guy. He is blowing up the country. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. And frankly, being a Trumpian will not save you when the time comes to pay the piper, and it will. The U.S. simply cannot sustain these perpetual losses and this perpetual uncertainty because the guy in charge, the reelected guy in charge, is completely and demonstrably nuts.
But Jim, all these, I don't know what you want to call them, acolytes, disciples, whatever, there's no turning back. I made the mistake yesterday of saying I thought Marco Rubio, who I remember, last time around when he was actually running for the Republican nomination, seemed like a reasonable guy. He's spouting the same stuff everybody else in his administration is. You start to lose hope at some point.
Well, I lost hope with Marco Rubio when he accepted being called Little Marco by Donald Trump, and probably still is referred to as Little Marco in closed-door meetings, or maybe open-door meetings for all I know. Aaron, I understand what you're saying, but you're trying to apply longitude and latitude of sanity to a map of total insanity. I mean, I every single day I wake up, it's like, my God, what has he done now? Yeah. Today it's wine. What is it?
200% to Europe.
200% tariffs on European wines. Because why? Because they slapped a 50% tariff on U.S. whiskey. The guy is, I'm sorry, I could give you a big lecture. The guy is nuts. He's got no business in there. But you know what? The Americans put him there. He is, at bottom, their problem. And if he's going to be solved, they're the ones who are going to have to solve it.
So I will ask you, I don't want to keep going on with this, and I want to ask our listeners what they think. What's your idea here? What's the theory? Are we now accepting that this is trying to hurt Canada as much economically as possible?
Absolutely.
So as to take it over?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, no, I don't think, frankly, I think the takeover stuff, the 51st state stuff is trolling against more Justin Trudeau than anything else. And he loves to troll people, Trump. But the fact of the matter is the U.S. would draw the line. First of all, the U.S., there are too many people who have gold stars in their homes because the U.S. thought it was a good idea to invade Iraq. I don't think the idea of invasion is that easily tossed around anymore. But all that said, I got to tell you, Aaron, the rest of it, if you can't go wrong right now thinking of the United States of America, no matter how you want to perceive that country, as a hostile power.
That's where we'll leave it. Jim, thank you. Appreciate it.